Apple CarPlay is a really nifty life hack for cars that have really old infotainment systems, terrible infotainment systems. Because let's be honest, a lot of cars out there, a majority of cars, still have operating systems that work and function in the same manner as cars from the 2010s. Sure, the icons and transitions may look a little cleaner now, but if your car's not a Tesla or a handful of other car makers, you're really just looking at the same stuff your previous cars have had in the last 20 years. I'm not a huge user of entertainment apps like Netflix and Hulu on my Tesla, but I do think it's awesome that the capabilities that are on the Tesla are at least available for people who do enjoy that stuff. What if, however, you could do the same thing for any car out there as long as you have Apple CarPlay? Well, I'm going to tell you what you can do because a company called One Car Stereo reached out to us and sent us this AI Box Lite product in hopes of kind of showing us that this is quite possible with this technology to enjoy Netflix on your Toyota Camry infotainment system. So how exactly can you get the Netflix app working on a car's infotainment system, any car's infotainment display? Well, the prerequisite that you need is wired Apple CarPlay, and we also discovered that you also need a horizontal orientation display. We'll talk about that in a sec, but keep in mind, it requires a wired CarPlay and does not work with car that only has wireless CarPlay because you need to plug this in. So when you actually do plug in the AI Box Lite, instead of plugging in your iPhone into the car, the car's infotainment system will automatically recognize the car box's interface. The irony behind this is that the AI box is actually an Android box, and imagine like a little Android PC, and you're running things like Apple CarPlay off of it. It's kind of interesting the analogies that can happen there. Yes, you can run Apple CarPlay off of the One Car Android box in a weird kind of like paradoxical form too. If you have an Android phone, it will automatically redirect you into an Android Auto interface instead. There's an included USB-C cable that can be plugged into your car, and it also has a little adapter to change the C to an A plug if your car uses USB-A instead of USB-C for Apple CarPlay. Interestingly enough, there's also another USB-A port on this little console, and what it can do for that is you can actually plug in a little thumb drive with videos and also your MP3s on here because this device actually has a media player for music and also a video player. Think more like a Windows movie player. So you can actually read your files on there and play it in the app. It actually works. I tried it out. They have some preloaded on here too. Pretty nice. It reminds me of the old days, but it's something that, at least from a car aspect, we don't see often. So you can play your own videos onto your display using the system. After the initial setup, the first thing that I do after the menu appears on the infotainment screen is I set up the Wi-Fi. So I connect the Wi-Fi to my mobile device, my phone, using a hotspot. So I set up my hotspot, so it reads it for Wi-Fi, so it's using my data from my phone. And then once that's connected, you have a bunch of things that you can do. There's 4 pillars, which sends you to pretty self-explanatory things. It's the standard CarPlay, and then you have Netflix and an exit button, and it takes you back to your vanilla interface if you press that exit button, which is your car's interface. Those are pretty self-explanatory, really. There's nothing we need to talk about there. So naturally, the first thing we want to do with something like this is test out Netflix and YouTube. Like, I think most people buying this want to use it to watch these things in their cars. And it was a little tricky because when I first opened YouTube, it said I needed to update through Google Play Store, which is a little tricky because there was no Google Play Store like on an Android tablet where you can just click on the app and it opens the Play Store. You can't do it natively on the system. After I did get it to update through the actual YouTube app, because if you click on there, it's like a loophole that gets you through it. I did finally get it to update after signing in and all that. YouTube actually works as advertised. I was actually surprised because videos do take a few extra seconds to buffer on the screen, but overall, the playback was perfectly fine and acceptable, and once it gets going, it actually is kind of enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's as great as the Tesla app. The same can be said for Netflix. Like, I didn't really know what to expect going into this review when we got this thing, but I found myself pleasantly surprised that it actually works, and it's actually enjoyable to watch it on this infotainment system display. I never imagined I would be watching a Netflix show on a Toyota Camry's infotainment system. I just never processed that. The navigation of this device relies on a touchscreen, and it uses a floating overlaying like home and back button combination. This button does help offset that sometimes like clunky navigation of what I assume is a lower end processor that's powering through Android. That's not usually a fun combination to work with as a consumer from experience in the past. I have a bit more tolerance for performance on this thing because it is Android and you're able to do some of the Android operating stuff on your car that had nothing to do with that. So I do excuse it a little bit in this situation. The box does, however, run hot after about like 5 to 10 minutes of use. I haven't noticed any throttling when it gets warmer though. It does stream still normally, so at least it does that. Audio actually pushes straight through into your car's stereo system without delay. So I do like that there is basically no audio latency issues, and the moving images actually sync with the noise.
At all attempt to grow anything. This is where Garden 3.0 comes in. It's an indoor hydroponic system that uses AI technology to create
you can actually use your volume knob to turn the audio up and down. So I love having that control there. It just works right once you plug it in. And it sounds rudimentary, but it also isn't a given all the time with a lot of these types of setups. We actually had to borrow my aunt's Toyota Camry to do this video because originally when they reached out to us, this company, One Car Stereo thought that it might work on a Polestar 2 and it would be nice to get some video with this on the Polestar 2. And we were excited to try something like this because the Polestar 2 is very similar to our Tesla Model 3. But the only thing with that is there's none of the entertainment factors. And while it isn't a huge deal to me, it would be nice to have some of that functionality in there. Well, to go into the detail, it technically does work. You plug it in, it does work, but it's essentially inoperable. The menus and the interfaces are inoperable. And the reason behind that is the display on the Polestar 2 is essentially a square. I would say it's close to a square, but it's more of a, it's still a vertical aspect ratio. And most of the cars out there, like say on your Toyota or your Honda, the infotainment displays are in a horizontal aspect ratio. And it seems like the AI Box Lite doesn't adjust the configuration of the touchscreen controls to match that vertical landscape. It only works well on a horizontal landscape. And that's not great for like things like the QWERTY keyboard. So if you're logging on to things, there's no way you can type on the screen because one row is like 3 rows behind. One column is like 2 columns behind. So if you're trying to click on Q, you click on another letter, and you click on another letter, it clicks on the space bar. That's ultimately what you have to deal with a vertical oriented screen. So if you have a car with a vertically oriented screen, it probably isn't the right setup for you. While this is all fascinating, I do want to also disclaim that I don't encourage anybody to actually use this while driving. It diverts your attention, and you should not be watching videos while driving. There's actually a setting in here that you can toggle to prevent videos from playing while you're driving. By default, this is not turned on, and this is something that I'm going to talk to One Car Stereo about and suggest that maybe they should have that toggled on. At the end of the day, though, One Car Stereo delivers exactly what it was advertising to do. Like, this box allows you to watch videos on your car's infotainment system as long as you have Apple CarPlay wired with it. It gets a little bit of that whole Tesla experience on your existing car. And it's only for $179. Like, if you have to entertain children during, I guess, downtime trips, or you have to find yourself actually sitting in a parking lot, maybe waiting to pick up your kids from an activity, I guess I can see why this could be an attractive purchase. And it actually does what it intends to do. So if you're looking for something like this, it does exist.
The other day, my house was leaking. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do about this. I'm a tech guy. I only know tech. So how do I fix that? And then you subscribed and it fixed it. So thank you.